some critics say that international patients are given more importance.
Indian hospitals would not do that. It's about our reputation.
What would it take for India to become the preferred choice of medical destination for travelers?
Perception is something which we need to probably work on. We don't talk about it, but these are roadblocks. We still do not have a large airline network. Unlike Singapore and Thailand, we do not promote ourselves in unity. Future of healthcare, especially for India, is going to grow by leaps and bounds. After any disruption, there is an opportunity and you can only go up and not down, which is what happened after 2022.
India being cheaper is enough to attract international patients. Renu Malik has spent her career navigating the space where business strategy meets patient care. She's not from the clinical side of healthcare, but she's been in the rooms where global partnerships are built, where sales translate into access, and where the decisions made can shape a patient's entire journey across borders. At Fortis, she's helped steer the international story, not just by bringing in numbers, but by building systems that work for patients, families, and facilitators coming in from across the world. In 2025, as Fortis expands its reach and sharpens its focus on specialized care, she's playing a key role in making sure that growth stays aligned with purpose. Whether it's medical tourism, trust building in private healthcare, or what Indian hospitals need to do to stay globally competitive, she's seen it all from close range. And she's here to talk about what most people miss. Welcome to Athwart Unscripted, Renu. I'm so glad we are finally doing this.
I am glad as well.
So Renu, let's start with this. Like, you've spent your career on the business side of healthcare, but in roles where the decisions that you're making can quietly shape someone's entire medical journey. You're not in the operating rooms, but you're very much part of the before, during, and after. Did you always know that healthcare would be a long game, or did you just find yourself here and never left?
So surprisingly, although I'm into healthcare for last almost 18 years, I would say, but I just didn't know that I would end up here. I don't know about others, but as far as I am concerned, I just didn't know what I wanted to do. So I kept studying and kept doing different degrees. So starting from, say, having science when I was in class 12 to interior designing, and then also doing my MA and then B.Ed and then MBA.
Right.
So I didn't know actually what I wanted to do. And you know what really happens with most of the women? Sometimes you take sabbatical, you have kids. So honestly, if you ask me that if I had thought about it, obviously not, that I would be into healthcare. But yes, I'm very happy that I am into healthcare. I think I was always this person who could be very friendly. I would also give some sort of credit that I love talking to people, and somewhere, I landed into sales, marketing, and business development. So probably that helped me more. And I've been into different roles, different industries, talking about ad agencies and hotels, and finally healthcare. But yes, it's always been sales and marketing and business development.
So, you worked across organizations like Gleneagles, Artemis, and now Fortis, of course, all at the very different moments of at their growth, So, what was that one phase that really redefined healthcare for you, or how you saw this industry?
So I think there is not one particular phase that I would say that changed my perspective. In fact, I think overall healthcare has been changing, and it has to, because we are in the field of medicines and science. It's ever evolving. But if you want to put me into different phases, so I think when I joined Artemis, which was in 2008, and medical value travel at that point in time was actually a new term. Most of the people didn't even know about it. And we have to give credit to the first corporate hospital, that's Apollo, who actually started with the medical value travel. In fact, we used to call it medical tourism. People thought that the patients could come, they could get treated, and alongside could also go for tourism to Taj Mahal and Jaipur and all.
Of course.
Yeah. So I think I would actually put it in a way that when I joined healthcare, at that point in time, it was more about attracting patients to the country for not so complicated procedures. So people would travel for, knee replacements and cardiac surgery like a CABG. And it was more about promoting India as a destination where it would give you cost advantage, less price. And sometimes very loosely, all of us used to say, we are a cheap destination.
Yeah.
So that is what used to happen. I would put it that way. But then I think 2010 and 2019, it's not about where I was. It was that entire phase. And in my perspective, the whole industry was changing. And it was more about building brands and, private sectors coming into play.
Right.
So many new hospitals were coming in. So much more investment was coming into the system. So it was more about building brand, talking about India as the destination for medical tourism. So I think it was that phase. And then came the phase of COVID-19.
The biggest disruption in the industry probably.
Yes, that was the time I think everything felt in the very most disruptive stage. And medical value travel actually got affected. In the first phase, we didn't want people to travel in. And in the second phase, there were bans on India. So we did lose opportunities at that point in time. Those were very two difficult years. Although healthcare otherwise was very different. It was on another growth trajectory all across the globe because people understood the value of health.
Right.
So people started giving more importance to health. But medical value travel got very negatively impacted. But after any disruption, there is an opportunity and you can only go up and not down, which is what happened after 2022.
Right.
And digitalization happened. People got deeper into different markets. There were new markets. And I think all of us, we explored new opportunities. So I think different phases taught me different things. And not only me, everybody at large.
Would you like to elaborate more on the subject of how COVID impacted the medical tourism industry?
Okay. So, see, what really used to happen earlier, conventionally, it was the Indian doctors would go outside of India, conduct camps and, have health talks and all.
Right.
Obviously, you have to promote yourself.
Fair enough.
So, online presence was not so much, although each one of us probably, we all have websites, but that's about it. Getting to the core, exploring newer opportunities in terms of teaching, training, capacity building, because one realized that just as we got more aware and health became so important to Indians as such, we often hear that insurance has grown by leaps and bounds. In India, it wasn't that much. Now, if you see even somebody, say from the rural areas who has a bit of money, wants to take an insurance, so health has taken that much of importance. It is important for everybody. Earlier, we would spend on gold and property, but would never spend on health insurance. So if that happened in India, it happened everywhere else also. So the countries outside of India, where primarily the Indian hospitals would visit and make their impact, during these 2 years, those same countries also worked on their own capacity building. So the easier procedures started happening in the countries itself.
Right.
Now, what has changed? The change is that simpler stuff is happening in those countries, but people have started traveling for more complicated procedures.
Fair enough.
So one is that. The other is that we have learned how to use online platforms, the digital platforms, to bridge the gaps. We have also realized that it's not very important for every person to travel to India. You can cut costs, you can save money, and decisions can be taken even before your travel. And a lot of such things. online trainings, webinars. We had never heard of webinar, before COVID. It was like, we used to do it, but it was something very rare, once in a while sort of a thing. So all of this put together has actually changed the industry landscape, how it used to work.
Spina, you deal with strategy, partnerships, and international patients. On paper, that all sounds very corporate, but how personal does your work become?
It is very personal.
Okay.
We are in healthcare. Everything is personal here. So we are dealing with the patient, and patient is the core. So you can't change that at all. Everything revolves around the patient, and the patient that we are talking about, that each patient is unique. So one, that you have to be very empathetic. You cannot work through systems and processes and laptops. One is that. The other is that people who are responsible in this journey, whether it's the attendant of the patient or the treating doctor back in the country or the ministries or the insurance companies, all of them who are responsible for patient's treatment or the entire journey, you have to have a relationship with those people. So it's always personal.
Do you think our leaders in healthcare are still focusing more on the commercial side of things? Or maybe I would rather say their focus is more on clinical precision, on technological advancement, on digitalization, rather than looking at the emotional part of healthcare? Because when somebody is traveling from outside, I'm sure you understand that that's an equally important area where they should focus on. But do you think our leaders are giving it any thought?
We are actually focusing on the quality part of it. And quality in healthcare is directly proportional to the success rate, the survival rates, the comorbidity rates, infection control rates. That is how you measure quality in healthcare. And that is paramount. That's the center, that's the core to healthcare.
I agree. Are there any focused or dedicated exercises that hospitals are practicing in this regard? Is there any thought process that has started in this regard?
Oh, of course. See, even for all our units, we have taken measures that, you have to greet, you have to smile. We are actually trying to work like hospitality industry, because we realize that when the patients come to us, whether domestic or international, everybody is looking for smiling faces. We have started with the culture of, folding your hands and greeting. So the endeavor is there for sure.
A large part of what you do is, of course, international patient care. So you have closely dealt with patients who are traveling from across borders. So when I talk about these patients who are making the decision to come to India, what is it that you feel helps them take that decision? Is it the hospital? Is it the doctor? Is it the treatment?
Hospital, doctor, of course, is given. Because everybody is really aware these days. Enough and more information is available everywhere. So the patients do their research. They talk to people. So word of mouth plays a big role. But each individual patient is also very different. So apart from deciding on hospital and doctor and, taking opinions from other similar patients from their communities, what they also assess and evaluate is who they are talking to when they are talking to in India. The person who's actually responding to them, whether from the hospital side or from the medical value travel company, or any person who's actually the mediator, who's talking to them. And a lot of these things matter to that person. They are continuously figuring out from that distance whether they are being responded to properly, how well they are treated, how commercial the person sound when the person is talking to them. Because these are the fears of the patient. The patient is actually really anxious because patient is going to travel to an unknown land. So there is this fear of unknown. But what can really soothe or calm down their anxiety, they would actually choose that option. Somebody who can answer all their questions. So, I think effective communicator would make the difference.
India's position globally as a cost-effective care destination.
Yeah.
But when patients land here, what's something they expect that still catches many hospitals off guard?
India has been positioned as cost-effective destination, and it is. And I think we are proud of it because we are able to give access to many. Now, what you are pointing to is, I think you're talking about, patients disconnect when it comes to the initial estimate which has been given to the patient and the actual bill. So, Vandana, I would like to actually take a minute to emphasize on this because there are critics about it and people say, oh, the bills go haywire and all. And I would like to explain or rather justify over here that the bills are different from the estimate because also the reports that we receive from the patients or the initial diagnosis that we receive from the patients is actually very different from when the patient arrives to the country. Especially in the cases of oncology and transplant and, for neurosurgical procedures. In most of the straightforward procedures, I don't think so there is any deviation. And it's just not about only the diagnosis part. Sometimes, patients just land up without any information at all. And we sometimes receive one-liners that we need knee replacement, and they would actually share, some old X-ray of theirs. So I think there is a lot of disconnect in that.
Having said that, do you feel a communication needs to be strengthened a bit so that people are aware of or prepare for these kind of deviations?
See, communication is key to every problem and, it's everywhere where you don't need communication, a good communication. Of course, that's going to make a lot of difference. But still, you can only communicate to an extent. You can only tell that the reports that you are presenting are very old. You can do all of that. But right now, if you're talking about the difference between the initial estimate given and the real bill, that usually happens when the patient comes with, say, an X problem. And then when the patient comes here, we find out that there is X plus Y or plus Z. Or there are times when patient is here, we feel everything is just the same in the estimate which is given to the patient. But then during the course of treatment, especially, as I said, in cancer cases, things change. This disease changes, the pattern changes, the stage changes. Sometimes there are a number of days which increase. So that just changes everything. But if you are trying to say that, do we do intentionally? Absolutely not. Indian hospitals would not do that at all. It's about our reputation.
No, of course.
And if we are on the global map right now, and if we are a preferred destination for medical value travel, is also because of our reputation. We have delivered. So we wouldn't want to spoil that at all.
Also, you worked with patients from probably multiple countries now. Do you think in our Indian system, there could be stuff that we are very used to working on, but when patients land over here, they actually notice or struggle with something like this, but we tend to overlook that just because we're very used to those systems?
Every patient is different and so is the requirement. I'll give you a little, small example. So when we travel abroad, suppose we go to Europe, if we belong to, say, the upper middle class or the higher class, we would have tasted things differently, and then we say book a Hilton or a whatever brand, and our expectations would be different. And if we don't get that, we would be very unhappy. Now, if we are say from a middle class going to Europe for the first time, and if we book the same hotel, we would be so happy with everything that we get. So, but that is also about, I'm talking about in the luxury segment. But what I'm trying to point out over here is that individual requirement of each patient is very different. It could be based on their backgrounds, their socio-economic structure, their fears. Are they coming from the war-affected countries? What is their economic background in general? What are their sufferings? So all of that will vary from person to person. And in fact, even if they come from the same family, the expectations would be different. So the struggle actually arises when the expectation is not being met. And, there is a gap in the delivery and the expectation.
If you had to design one part of the patient experience, what would that part be?
All right. So I think I would like to have like a dedicated tower or hospital for the international patients. I would want them to feel at home right from the beginning. So whether it's at the entrance, a security guard greeting them in their language, or entering into the reception, the nurses, all of them speaking the same language, so that they feel at home, so that they could get food of their own taste, their same cuisines, doctor talking the same language. I know it's an ideal situation.
It is.
Yeah, it's actually about trust. As I said, fear of unknown. So once they land here, we need to actually show trust to them. And when will they trust? If they see similar and familiar, environment, I would like to do that.
So, although that's a great idea, Renu, I mean, having the comfort of their own home and the hospital is a great idea. But when I think of it, it does seem far-fetched.
Yes, it is.
So maybe something a little more realistic, which you think, can be redesigned or re-looked into.
Yeah, sure. So, with all the digitalization happening, I also feel that, we could probably use it to our advantage. I have an idea where we could create something called as digital companion, an online platform. So we have spoken about that so much advancement has happened post-COVID. We are using online platforms. I think an app or some sort of platform where patient could access that pre-deciding their journey. And, we could actually have consults, video consults with the doctors before they come in. They could share their reports. We could have to and fro communication on that app. And once they land here, they have this entire hospital map when they come, so that they're not lost. They're already familiar. And, this would obviously be in their language, because some of the patients who come to the hospital, sometimes they get lost. Although we have a robust mechanism of dealing with international patients, all of our hospitals have international lounges and language interpreters, and all of that is available. But still, to take it to another level of hand-holding, using the technology, I think this will really help. So they could get real-time updates while they are in the hospital. They could probably see their bills. So, we can also ensure financial transparency, and also post-treatment, post-departure, where more hand-holding is required, so that there is no disconnect, and there's continuity in the treatment. I think if we could have something like that, I would like to add to the current things that we already have. We are doing it in bits and pieces. Our doctors are in constant touch with the doctors outside of India, but it is not so structured, I would put it that way. Yeah.
So, we are focused on individual patient experiences. Now, stepping back, how would you describe the pulse of India's healthcare system?
We are a large country. We have large pool of doctors. We produce just so many doctors. We are one of the largest when it comes to pharmaceutical industry. We are also now pretty large when it comes to innovations, technology, and all of that. So everything, as I said, is plus size. And economies of scale, which we always talk about. India can always do that. Hence the cost advantage. Otherwise, it's not possible to.
Fair enough, yeah.
So everything put together, India is at a position of advantage. And it's, I think, for anybody else, it will be very difficult to replicate.
So you feel our technology is something that actually makes people travel to our country for treatment?
Absolutely. We are now not only replicating or trying to imitate the West, we are innovating. We are pioneering a lot of things.
Having said that, would you like to talk about anything that we have pioneered as a country?
Indian doctors are quite invested into research and coming up with new, ways of performing surgeries and all of that. That's a constant. That's been happening. India has a lot of its first, which we don't talk about, but in the field of, say, healthcare and medicine, even if West has done something, India is at par with them now.
Is there any area which is still a matter of which they want India to fix as a country?
See, treatment is very well taken care of. There is no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And hence, as I've been repeating again and again, we have earned the reputation. We are on the global map now.
Right.
We are highly spoken about.
Yeah.
And especially with Modi ji taking so many initiatives, which is Heal in India, Heal by India. So, people look up to us. It's not only that we are offering Heal in India, which is like, come to us and we'll treat you. We are also extending and helping in establishing healthcare systems outside of India. We're building capacities. So Heal by India is that project. And, the government, of course, is taking care of that. And private hospitals are also making all the attempts and trying their level best to help build capacity outside of India for the countries.
Right.
So all of this is happening.
But what is that area that still needs fixing in our Indian healthcare?
Okay. I think we are still not very relaxed with the visas.
Okay.
Although we have tried to sort it, because the main comparison or the bottlenecks which patients, talk about, and then they compare with our competition, which is like primarily, say, Turkey, for instance. Which gained a lot of momentum and, especially during COVID.
Of course.
The visa is very easy. And maybe connectivity to some extent. I think we still do not have a large airline network.
Okay.
Yeah. We are dependent on, our national carrier is not everywhere. We are still not like Ethiopian, which travels across Africa, or Emirates, or Turkish Airlines, for instance. I think these are, we don't talk about it, but these are roadblocks.
So we're talking more from an access perspective for the medical travelers.
Of course.
But if I talk about something that needs fixing in the Indian healthcare, not the access, anything when it comes to the Indian mindsets that they're dealing with.
So I will tell you one thing that I think it's not a truth which we would like to hear. Although we are respected and all of it that I said, it's the perception in the West. Unlike Singapore and Thailand, we do not promote ourselves in unity as, Indian medical value travel destination or something like that. Okay. So whatever is happening right now is in bits and pieces. The private hospitals are making a lot of effort on their own. Maybe that is lacking. As far as the treatment is concerned, or the treatment outcomes are concerned, that piece is pretty well taken care of.
So I want to understand a bit more on the unity part that we spoke about. So when you talk about unity, you're talking about the unity between the private and the public hospitals out there and coming together to provide a more cohesive healthcare system?
Yeah, probably yes. We talk about all these medical value travel destinations. When they showcase themselves outside in a, say for these conferences and exhibitions and all, it's like the country in totality that you look at.
I agree.
But when it comes to India, it's the private healthcare, the private hospitals, they are doing all the hard work.
No, I get it. That's a very valid point.
And we have spoken about it. The government acknowledges it. We have taken a lot of initiatives. The Ministry of Health and Family Welfare has tried. And we go out as delegations and all of that is happening. But right now, it is still not very structured. I think it's, a lot of hard work and focus is required in that direction.
Right.
Yeah.
Coming in together, I think, is really important now for the
Correct.
public and the private sector to
Correct.
operate
Correct.
together.
Yeah.
Many conversations about Indian healthcare focus on infrastructure, on tech. But when you think about the everyday patient experience here, what is one structural issue that you still feel needs more honest attention?
Difficult to answer. I just feel, and probably I'm a proud Fortis, and I feel we are doing the best. I can tell you one thing: in all the closed boardroom meetings, we are always talking about patient delight and patient experiences. It's an ever evolving subject. So you only learn from your mistakes. You try to fathom the problems and then think of the possible solutions. I can tell you that we are doing it. Already that work is happening. Hence, talking about the pickup from the airport and hand holding, having large teams, patient care teams, having these lounges and, helping the patient with the visas and trying to get them for, when they come here, before that, having online consultations, all of it, it's a part of giving good service to the patient.
It was a very interesting observation that you had on the unity aspect for the nation, where I feel it's actually so important for both public and private sector to come together and promote healthcare in a cohesive manner. So that was a very, very insightful thing for our audience today. Now, healthcare as an industry is a very ambiguous one. As much clarity as you would like for all of us to have on this industry, people don't really readily want to talk about it. There are so many of us who have questions, but we never have answers for them. Stuff that we have really just accepted that that's how it is. So maybe it's time I want you to shed some insight or light on questions that don't get answered generally. To begin with, I see Fortis investing heavily in new capacity and specialized units like the genomic medicine and, diagnostics. At the same time, there are still cities and regions where quality care is out of reach. How do you personally reconcile high-end innovation with the reality of access and affordability in India?
See, innovation is inevitable. It has to happen. You have to upgrade. You have to update. That has to happen. And everybody should be investing in it. It's just so important for healthcare. You cannot be using your old ways. For instance, it was okay to, do the normal surgeries, open surgeries. That changed to minimally invasive surgeries, the keyhole surgeries, laparoscopy surgeries, and now the robots. Why? It's not something which is fancy, and that's why we are doing it. It is good for the patient. It ensures quality. So very simple. That there is more precision. There is less blood loss. The healing is better. The healing period gets shortened. Hence, you adopt technology. Same is the case with anything and everything. I mean, in the space of, say, diagnostics, or in the space of, say, radiation, things have just changed. Why? Because you want to be able to diagnose so that you are able to give better treatment. So innovation is extremely important. Now we are talking about genetics. So earlier we always spoke about treatment. Then we started talking about diagnosis first. We realized prevention is better than cure. And we all have started giving importance to early diagnosis so that we can take care of ourselves. We can avoid certain things which are likely to happen. So it's just very important to upgrade and update. And innovation, of course, is a big part of it. Now, coming to the second part of your question, where you are saying we are building capacity, we are innovating, that has to happen, as I said. We are talking about access to the patients who are, say, in tier 2 or tier 3.
So in terms of innovation versus access, innovation is even more priority than access.
it will be in phased manner. We are also trying to expand ourselves. So many investor groups which are looking at India as a market for healthcare innovation and as their home markets. So we are also reaching out to the tier 2, tier 3 cities, and in coming years, health will be available to everybody.
India is positioned as a global medical tourism hub, and Fortis has received international accreditation for it as well. But some critics say that international patients are given more importance or prioritized while local bottlenecks remain unresolved. Is that a fair tension to point out?
Not at all. I mean, it just doesn't happen. So, if we are talking about services, yes, the services are being given to the international patients, the extra services that we talk about. And that is only because they need it. They don't belong to the country. They are in a foreign land. So if we are able to calm down their anxieties or the fear of unknown that they have, if we can work on it, so of course services are important to be given. But if we are talking about medical treatment, so if you're saying that are we giving any preference? Absolutely not. The preference will be given to the patient who needs the attention the most. It will depend on the criticality of the situation. Never ever the preference will be given to an international patient over a domestic patient who needs the treatment before that patient.
Private healthcare talks a lot about awards and accreditation, yet patients still mention a lot of confusion around billing, insurance, or the post-op care, which is a very, very big issue these days. Where do you see the gap between a world-class promise and what patients actually experience?
So I would like to say, Vandana, awards, accreditation, recognition only comes when there are results. They are given to you based on your treatment outcomes. And quality in healthcare is only measured by treatment outcomes. The success rates, the survival rates, comorbidity rates, infection control, and many such parameters. And once, you establish the fact that you are good in delivering what you promise in terms of treatment, and hence you get these awards and accreditations and recognition.
But we're talking about the treatment outcomes, right? So there are important feathers like billing, there are important feathers like post-op care.
I would not completely disagree. There is a bit of, I wouldn't say confusion, probably a disconnect. And I would only like to emphasize on one thing. The billing goes haywire yet again, only because when there is X plus Y plus Z treatment given to the patient. It is not that we rampantly want to increase the bills. It doesn't happen like that. In fact, there have been instances where we have seen that patients have these financial challenges. We understand when they come here and they are given an X estimate and, the bill goes up. Not in all the cases, but we have supported, accommodated, and tried to take care of the financial part as well. So it's not like we cannot generalize this. It happens for sure. But this can happen anywhere, not only in India. It just can happen anywhere around the world.
Patient reviews matter more than hospital awards when people choose where to get treated.
Yes, I agree.
And today's system...
And I would like to answer why.
Sure, why not?
Because that leads to awards.
Well said. Well said. India being cheaper is enough to attract international patients.
I agree, but I wouldn't like to use the word cheaper. I would put it cost effective.
So you're trying to tell me that does influence their decision to travel?
It does. Every penny matters.
Especially the country that they're traveling from.
Every penny matters.
Or is it that people who have it do not travel to India but travel to any other country?
True that, absolutely. The very rich actually do not want to come to India. They do travel to other countries.
Right.
But I would also like to tell you one fact over here. Some of the patients who are rich and who can afford to go to, Germany and US and Singapore, for some offbeat procedures, they do want to come to India. Because that is where India is known for.
And what would those offices
So
be?
something like treating cancer by nuclear medicine therapy. We receive patients from Canada and Europe and US.
So what you're talking about is a treatment that's not available anywhere else, but only available in India for which somebody would travel here. I'm talking about a treatment that's available both in India and Western countries, or let's say any other country like Singapore, or why would people not travel for the very same treatment to India and travel elsewhere if they had more money to spend?
See, they also do a lot of research. If a treatment is sure giving those medical outcomes and it's available anywhere, patient would choose that. Although they are very less in number, there are not so many. We don't receive patients from the Western world.
Might you talk about some perceptions that we are still facing in society?
It could be perception. It could be the distance. It doesn't make that much sense for a patient from Canada or US to come to India.
How many patients do we receive from Saudi?
Not much.
And are you trying to tell me there's no outbound tourism in Saudi Arabia?
There is. Definitely there is. Yeah, so we know that GCC has affinity and liking towards the European nations.
So if we could fast forward a few years, what does healthcare look like to you?
If we talk about AI, digitalization, that will, of course, will smoothen the processes, give a better service or better experience to the patient. But physical hospitals are going to remain, doctors are going to remain, nurses are going to remain. And I think we'll also have our jobs intact.
Of course.
So, I mean, that's on the lighter note. But healthcare is getting a lot of importance because people have realized that nothing is more important than health. So we go back to this old saying when we used to say health is wealth. We all have understood. Future of healthcare in medical value travel, especially for India, is going to grow by leaps and bounds. Because there is an ever-growing demand. And the position that at which India is right now, where we are not only confined to treating patients or, taking care of the patients when they come to India. And as I said, we have taken that position of teaching and training and helping build capacity outside of India. Which I think is rare. Not everybody does it, and we have the skill to do it. We have the pool to do it, and it's not going to stop for sure.
What would it take for India to become the preferred choice of medical destination for travelers?
So right now we already hold number 10 position. Perception is something which we need to probably work on.
If you were asked to create a new department by 2030, what would that department be?
I think I would have a department to manage human emotions and trust because as we are advancing and we are adopting the technology with AI coming in, the technology will be very much there. But what about supporting the patient's emotions? For that, we would need a separate department.
True.
Because paradoxically, the treatment will be taken care of, but the human emotions or the human touch will get distanced because of the technology intervention.
So, we've gone deep into the real and the radical. But as we wrap, I want to leave people with something that they will carry forward. Maybe a truth, maybe something that you feel they really need to take back with them.
Sure. So I would like to say that it's not about delivering excellence in treatment. That one we have to do. We are in healthcare. That's our job. We must deliver excellence when it comes to treatment. But what I want everybody to now understand that we are dealing with a patient who's suffering, who's in pain. So we have to work more on earning trust, especially for the patients who are coming from outside of India, leaving their homes, leaving their country, leaving their comfort. So it has to be about that. So I think I would want more empathetic approach rather than a mechanical approach. So I think that would really help if all of us could get a bit more empathetic.
Well, that was very well said, and I think that's exactly what this industry needs more. It's become a very commercialized term. Medical travel is often, taken as influx of patients and making money out of that. But at the end of the day, it's also about somebody traveling all the way to seek a treatment that's not available in their home country, and that's not an easy decision to make. So I think that's a very, very good closure where if people can just look at it in a more sensitive manner, I think our job is done.
Absolutely.
And an absolute pleasure to have you over here.
Thank you so much. Pleasure is all mine.
Thanks for listening to Athwart Unscripted.
Healthcare is one of the most advanced systems we built, and yet it's still one of the most fragile.
And this conversation really brought that home. Renu made a point that I think deserves to stay with you. India has earned its reputation. The outcomes are real, the work is real, but there's still a large part of the world that hasn't updated its picture of us. The GCC still looks towards Europe, Canada, the US, and barely figure in our inbound numbers. And a lot of that comes down to perception, not capability. How many patients do we receive from Saudi?
Not much.
And are you trying to tell me there's no outbound tourism in Saudi Arabia?
There is. Definitely there is. Yeah, so we know that GCC has affinity and liking towards the European nations.
That gap between what India has actually built and how the world still sees us, that's the conversation this industry needs to be having out loud.
Because the future of healthcare will not be built by technology alone, it'll be built by trust.
At Athwart, we believe better care systems begin with honest conversations. If this made you pause or rethink something, we are glad you are here.
You can learn more at athwart.ai.